This is the Rugby Ascendant Podcast with Mvia Velman and Chris Wyatt.
It's the Rugby Ascendant Podcast, and Chris and I are going to have a bit of a chat about the final game in the Rugby Championship and then have a quick look at the URC. But let's start with the Rugby Championship. Chris, you had a bit of an eventful weekend with your color commentary, call by call, that you call it. Very, very successful, but you had your challenges.
Well, in fact, it was quite a weekend. Hello to you. I have to say that I don't think most people realize this, but my gaming machine that I had custom built a couple years ago, well, it crapped out on me on Thursday. The heat pump, the cooling system failed, and it had been failing, but it failed in epic fashion. My CPU is at 100 Celsius. That'll burn it up pretty quickly. So I had to shut it down. I ordered a part from Amazon. It came. I have built computers in the past, but it's been a while since I did that. Anyway, I got inside the case and the harnesses didn't match up. They were non-standard, custom made ones. So I didn't have time to do this. So it was Friday evening. I had not set up my broadcast for Saturday. I looked on Google on my laptop. I found a guy. It said he's a Marine. So as an Army officer, I'll trust a Marine. So I called him up because he said he's available till 11 o'clock at night. By the time I finished working around with the thing and not making enough progress, I'd mounted it in there, but couldn't quite hook it up. I called him. After 8 o'clock or after 7 o'clock in the evening. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. And this site had said he did house calls, but he said, no, bring it down to me. Well, it's 55 kilometers, pitch dark, zero illumination, driving down in the dark. He lives on a mountainside somewhere up in a hill, deep in the woods. I felt like I was in the movie Deliverance. I got there, I dropped it off. He said, okay, I could take care of it. And I left with a not quite a great sense of comfort where I'd left my computer at. I went home, and a couple hours later, an hour later, he said, hey, I need this, I need that. And I gave him some information. And then at about 11 o'clock at night, he said, looking pretty good. I'll be done within an hour if you want to come pick it up, or you can pick it up in the morning. So I drove back down there in the dark after midnight, 12:30. Got back here at 1:30 in the morning and fired up my computer, and it was working. Not initially, it was a little warning screen came up. I got past that, and then got it working, and I set up all the streams. And thank goodness, because I was correct. This is a great opportunity. Two things happened. Number one, our interview, when you first interviewed me back in June, I think it was, about why I like South African rugby. They took a piece of that, the Springboks did, and they put that in a clip because I talked about the scrum and Ox Nche. And so I'm now in a video on their social media, especially on their Twitter site, but also on YouTube. And I'm followed by Ox Nche, and then Kobani Bobo, whom I've interviewed, is in there. And then Skalk Brits, whom I know personally, I've interviewed, is in there. Rossi is in there. It was so cool. So, social media is social media. You got to strike while the iron's hot. Mm-hmm. And I was going to be soul crushed if I couldn't get my broadcast up. So I get everything set up. I did the Lions game. That was kind of boring. But I went to bed at 4 o'clock, was up at 6 o'clock. So I got 2 hours sleep in 2 days, and then went into 4 consecutive back-to-back play-by-play color commentary. Doing one game is exhausting. Doing 4 is make you knackered. Doing 4 with 2 hours sleep after going through all that stress, I think it's superhuman. But I'll be honest, by the time I got the Stormers game, I was having a hard time staying awake, as was my audience, because of the turgid performance. But Lions game, boring. Bulls game, boring. Then we got to the main course, and Flow Rugby, which is my provider giving me the feed, did not have the broadcast. I had 350 people show up, and there was no broadcast. Like, where are you at? They do this occasionally, and I don't need this. This is a good chance for a big day here, and my audience is waiting. Finally, about 16 minutes into the game, I had the video and the audio, and it was working, and I called it from there. We had 113,000 people tune in during the course of that live stream. Of course, many of them just looking for a free game, but it was pretty awesome. And now that video is up to 131,000. We picked up about 700 subscribers, which is about 12% of our subscriber base on that day. That follows up the previous week with about 800, so it's pretty good. So it was pretty epic, but I have to tell you, I was knackered. Saturday afternoon, after I finished the Stormers game, I went on the couch and I passed out, kind of woke up 4 hours later, and then went back to sleep and got up 2 hours after that. Whew. Anyway, that's a long soliloquy, but that's what happened on Saturday.
131,000 viewers. That's incredible. People must remember that you do these things every little weekend, or every single weekend, I'm sorry, on every game, all the URC games, everything. You want to have a bit of a fun time, join in with Chris on his Rugby Ascendant channel. The details in the description down below. But I wanted to ask you to talk to me about the Rugby Championship game, that last one. Rassi took his revenge for what happened in Argentina. The Springboks things came together for me in a way. The exciting running game, but also the set pieces functioned properly for the first time in a while. apart from the referee and everything, the scrums worked well, the lineouts worked well, and the running rugby was something to behold. Your just overall impressions of that game, what did you think?
Well, I agree with the comments you made 100% with some pauses and breaks in between those points.
Yeah, no, nothing's perfect all the time. Yeah, sure.
All right. So, well, look, I'm going to say it. I don't think the game was spectacular. Whoa, pull the daggers out, audience. Pull the daggers out. That wasn't me. That was Rossi Erasmus who described this game. I don't think it was spectacular. And look, I'm a perfectionist. Anyone that's ever worked for me, I don't ride my team hard, but they know that I expect the utter best, and especially out of myself. And I expect the best out of Springboks. So Rossi and I would agree it wasn't spectacular. I would say this game started with gangbusters, boom, boom, even though I couldn't see the first 15 minutes. I could hear part of it. It was sound like it was very exciting. I thought they did very well, but there were parts where they fell off again. And I don't know if it's because it was hot and they got tired or what was going on, but there are parts of the game where they fell off. And I think that 3 tries in the last 12 minutes kind of is misleading. It makes it look, remember, there were 3 cards during that time frame. 3 yellow cards, 1 upgraded to a red card, and they were down to 13 players for a big stretch there. So, that last 12 minutes really makes it look a lot bigger defeat than it was. But the Pumas held their own for much in this game, I thought. But yeah, the scrum, boy, the Bucks were dominant in the scrum. I mean, every time there was a scrum, they were driving back 3, 4, 5 meters, and no penalties called, but only one time. But I thought their scrum was incredible. But the lineouts were okay. Malcolm came in and he didn't have the best lineout the first time. Malcolm Marks, he's usually reliable. But this is a game where I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people I could have picked as man of the match in my view. I mean, we'll talk about that. But Fassi, Colby, Peter Steph-Dutoy, Khaleesi, and Bongi all were in consideration for me in the running for a man of the match. But anyway, no, I don't think it was spectacular. And people are going to be like, what's wrong with you? They won 48-7. Yeah, but how they won and how they played, they got to be consistent. Because if you have those inconsistent moments, you won't beat the All Blacks when they're at their prime. They're not at their prime at the moment, but they're still a risk. I mean, we barely beat them twice in South Africa, on home soil. So you got to be consistent. And so I thought it was a great game and it was exciting. And for those who watch my broadcast, the enthusiasm that I put into it. But I'll go with Rossi. I don't think it was spectacular. Ouch.
Talking about the man of the match, what I normally do is I'd say, right, Peter Steph is assumed to be the man of the match, and then somebody else has to prove me wrong afterwards. So I assume beforehand, and then yes, somebody else has to show you actually did better than Peter. Peter Steph-Dutoy is just superhuman, don't you think?
Yeah, no, he is. And I think what's really superhuman is he's like the $6 million man. We have the technology, we can rebuild him.
Yeah.
He's running around with one of his dad's muscles in his leg.
He's running out of spare parts now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bin is empty. I don't think we have anything left. But no, it's Peter, and he's what a humble guy. He was the TV man of the match, and what a humble guy he really is. I mean, I a couple of years ago, some idiots made some stupid comments about him, and I quickly came out and defended him because he's not your typical Springbok mill, from the feeder schools at varsity, that sort of thing, and high school. He's he's a Western Cape guy, and he's kind of an unusual place to be at. And his brothers also play, as I understand it. But Peter Steph is, I think he's just fantastic ambassador for the game. So glad that in 2019 he was the player of the year because I thought he truly deserved it. And, I think that, frankly, at some point here after that operation, he also deserved like a comeback player of the year award, for coming back from that injury. And not only come back from the injury, but he's at the same level. And talk about being at the same level. Eben Etzebeth, I didn't say man of the match there, but he had a heck of a game too. He's not losing anything. That guy is still there at 31 now, I think he is, or 32, so 31, yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Evan is I thought the occasion might be a bit much for him. Not that it will affect him badly or negatively, but he saw he was emotional. He had his wife and his baby on the field with him, special ceremony, and CEO saying his praises and everything, but didn't let him affect it. He still played the game that we expect from him. But I wanted to talk to you about another sort of unsung hero a little bit, which I think is going to be, he's probably, if things were fair, he would have been in the running for World Player of the Year. We'll see. And that's Ox Nche. That guy just game after game just dominates everything. He handles like a backline player. He scrums like one of the best scrummers ever. I think that's probably one of the best games that I've seen him play in a while.
I have to agree with you on some points here. Ox is quiet for the most part for the public. Maybe he's not quiet in private, I don't know. But for the public, he's pretty quiet. He's soft spoken. You don't hear much about him, but he's just there all the time. and dominating, not just there. He's dominating. I mean, it's yeah, no, I think it's a fair point. But those front rowers are never going. I mean, it's going to be a fly half, a scrum half, a fullback, a wing. It's going to be their player of the year with World Rugby. It's like National Football League. A center or a guard will never be the MVP. It's going to be a quarterback. So I mean, that's maybe they should have an award for for props and for hookers. That should be just an award for that best. But no, I think you're right. Ox is quite a stud, and I really enjoy seeing him out there. When I saw this front line, I think I mentioned it. We talked about last week because we did get the team announcement before we did this last week, and I said Franz Malherbe, Mbombela, and Ox Nche. That's my starting front three all the time right now. I mean, look, I love Malcolm Marks. I think he's fantastic. Vincent Koch's fantastic, but I've noticed that Koch is much better off the bench. Malcolm is good wherever he comes in, but that front row, those three guys work like a team unbelievably well. Malherbe, Mbombela, and Nche. That's just fantastic. I love seeing those guys play together.
Interesting thing on the props while we're still there is Steenekamp now having taken a step up with Steven Kitshoff's injury. Do you think Steven Kitshoff will have the walk back into the team, or do you think Steenekamp has sort of staked the claim there?
I think that Kitshoff can get back there and get that spot back, but the last time when he came back and he played for Province down there, I was not thrilled with his performance. I don't know if he was rusty or he had a break or whatever. Yeah, what's that?
Griek was.
Yeah. I wasn't impressed with that performance at all. I don't know what was going on, out of sorts, whatever. But I mean, it's a one-off. I mean, that's one time. The guy has been consistently good. We'll see how he does when he comes back, but I'm confident he can get the spot back. Steenekamp is making an argument to be there, but I still think Kitshoff has the nod, and I think that Rossi will go with him unless something's seriously lacking.
All right, let's talk about the big thing now, the whole experiment surrounding Manie. Rossi took the decision to take the pressure of kicking away from Manie, and he gave the job to someone else. And before we talk about the Manie thing, I want to say that I think Rossi did the right thing in the sense that he didn't bring someone into the team to cover for Manie, like putting Pollard at 12, for example, which is not natural. He used someone who's in the team, who would have been in the team anyway. Jaden Hendrikse kicked well. And that, to me, unlocked a lot of Manie's actual potential. To me, the experiment worked. What was your take on it?
Well, I took a lot of grief for my comments about this, and I was quite outspoken when I said that last week I'm not sold on Manie and Hendrikse as a combination there. I've said that. I've said that Hendrikse, I think, is fantastic when I've seen him play for the Sharks, but he's been lacking most of the time, in my view, when he wears a Springbok jersey, and he's still there. I think there's better scrum halves, but anyway. So I wasn't sold on that. And I said that I'm concerned about Manie's kicking. I mean, but what did I say? And you're my witness, and people pay attention, actually watch the whole video. I have said consistently that Manie is the best at that position in the world, at getting the ball to players, kicking it to them, putting it on the wing, and distributing that ball out there. And when he was relieved of the kicking responsibilities, he did exactly that. He was lights out. He was brilliant. A good tactician, well-run game. He played very well across the board. And you and I were talking just before we went live, and I said that while I've been critical of Jaden, look, I love his brother Jordan. I think he's fantastic, but I've always been critical of Jaden. But this was, in my view, the singular best performance wearing the green and gold by Jaden Hendrikse as a Springbok. I mean, this was no doubt about it. And the experiment worked. The two of them were great together. It was okay as long as Manie doesn't have to kick. When Manie kicks, 90 seconds expire. He's like standing up there waiting. It's like in his mind, he's not allowed to kick until there's 2 seconds. Just get up there, put the ball on the tee, line it up, figure out what the wind is, get comfortable, and kick the darn ball. That to me has always been an indication he's not comfortable as a kicker up there. But hey, in this role, this worked very well. And I agree with your assessment, Mve, that not bringing another player onto the pitch to disrupt things was a smart move. Now, when Damien Willemse comes back, he was with the Stormers this weekend, but when he comes back up the Springboks and fullback, if he's got it instead of Fassi, he can kick, so he could do it. He's not the best kicker, but he's a 2/3 kicker. He'll get about 66% of his kicks in. So, yeah, I think it was a good experiment. So that part of the game I thought went very well. And major props to Manie. I did a video, much of which was rhetorical, and I've gotten flamed by some people who obviously didn't watch the whole video. They're like, well, because I made the comment, so he's doing half the job for full pay. Well, who are you to say that? Lots of teams. I'm like, did you watch the video? I said that other teams use scrum halves and they use fullbacks and wings to do the job. Some people just on social media are quite silly, I would say.
read the headline and make a comment without watching the video. Trust me, I've been there. Know all about it. Talking about Willemse now returning, I think, to me, Fassi is one of the finds of the season, of the championship so far. I know you were not too impressed with him this past weekend, but I think he's definitely staked a claim. He's tall, he's very good in the air, he's extremely fast, and I think he gelled well with the team as well in terms of playing with Mani, that kind of a playmaker combination. You think when Willemse comes back, who's your first choice fullback?
It's Willemse, but interest of full disclosure, I'm a Stormers fan. So I mean, put that on. That doesn't affect it, but people need to know that. No, I think it's Willemse is the guy coming back for me. Although this weekend I didn't see much in it, but he's just getting back on the pitch. So I think it's Willemse. Again, with Fassi has been so inconsistent in the past. Sometimes he's lights out. Sometimes he drops the ball right in his mitt. Sometimes he makes horrible kicks. In this game, he was brilliant, and he made some costly, dumb mistakes. So that's what cost him man of the match for me, is a couple of those things where fortunately it didn't kill us, but Fassi needs more consistency. He needs more coaching. I think that Willie needs to spend some time with him. Obviously he is, but needs to spend some more time with him, focusing on a few aspects of his game. But yeah, no, he's got all the tangibles, or the intangibles, I should say, and he's a brilliant player. I just don't think he's quite there yet. But you know what? He's a starting fullback for any other national side in the world. We'll take him for the Eagles. Love to have him.
Yeah, right. You'll take anyone for the Eagles at this stage. But anyway.
Easy.
I'm kidding. All right. So I wanted to ask you about Ben O'Keefe. You mentioned earlier that you said he maybe didn't reward the Springbok scrum that much as he should have. The Springboks were completely dominant. I actually thought he did quite well there. I know that Felipe Contoponi had a word to say at the press conference. Our friend Brendan now asked him whether he went there at halftime, which was a suggestion. Apparently, it wasn't during halftime; it was after the game. But nevertheless, he had a bit of a row with the ref. Do you agree with that kind of thing? What did you think of the ref as a whole and Contoponi's reaction?
I think it's perfectly fine for coaches to have an issue with officials. I think what they did to Rossi Erasmus a couple of years ago was disgraceful by World Rugby. When that video came out, there's nothing wrong with it in my view. The World Rugby brings disrepute on itself with its conduct and its lack of sanctioning officials who do poor jobs or being honest about things. Again, let's go back to the Oscar Visa red card, and we've seen what's happened subsequently, players who clearly done things that should have been red cards and not getting them. But in this game, I thought that, look, I'm not a fan of Ben O'Keefe. I thought that he did a good job. His officiating was pretty good. I mean, look, the 3 cards may seem harsh. Now, the red card is the one that kind of got me. It was upgrade. They crossed the arms and went up into the booth for the red card review. And that one I was a bit surprised because I didn't really see that. The angles I saw that they showed on TV, I didn't see how that is a red card. I mean, that's a problem with guys rushing into the ruck, like charging in there like that. You got to be very careful. But that's look, I thought Ben O'Keefe did a fine job in this game. I didn't have any major issues. Look, every game, that guy's out there. There's 30 players around him running all different directions. The side judges, unfortunately, a lot of times don't speak up when they should. Some of these officials who are on the side will say, hey, you got offsides here. You tell them, and they do the adjustment. But it's a hard job. It's a tough job out there. But I thought Ben O'Keefe did a pretty good job in this game. And if Philippe wants to complain about it, that's his prerogative. I got no issue with that. I mean, that's very thin skin of World Rugby. If your big beef is to sanction or to be upset about coaches complain. Now, players shouldn't be complaining about officiating. They should just play. Let their coaches complain about, or let the team captain complain about. But that's it. But no, I didn't have a problem with the Argentines being upset with it. But one classy thing I saw after the game is that Julian Montoya went into the locker room and brought a signed jersey to Evan to celebrate his 128th win, and a little basket. I think it had some Argentinian wine in it. I don't know how South Africans enjoy Argentinian wine. They love South African wine, but I thought it was pretty classy. And there's also another classy thing while I'm on it. After the game, we heard Peter Steph du Toit, man of the match, very humble. Then Sia Khaleesi, oh my gosh, that's bringing tears to my eyes. Listening to Sia Khaleesi's words about his teammate, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible what he said about Ebenezer. That was amazing. Very, very shows you the respect and love of that team, and it shows you what South Africa can be. I loved it. It was that, and there was one more really, really touching moment, which Flow Rugby and Super Sport screwed me out of, and that was the lovely little 10-year-old girl who has cancer. I did see a social media post in which she received a box from the Springboks, and I guess there was a jersey and stuff in there, and opened it up, and her dream came true. She went to a Springboks game. But not only that, she got a message from Sia, And he welcomed her, and I guess he held her hand, and they went on the pitch together and sang the anthem together. And I saw her at the end of the game, and I didn't know who she was. I assumed it must have been someone that was, on the field. And so anyway, but that was really heartwarming. So I mean, look, I'm getting kind of choked up now.
I can see. All right, I wanted to ask you about the cards. Argentinians had the best disciplinary record in the entire championship. They didn't give away one single card, and then they gave away three in one game, one of which was a red card. And to me, I'll be honest, that was a red card all day long. He went in completely off the side. He went in with no arms, shoulder tackle on the neck of Vincent Koch. I think it was an extremely dangerous thing. And I think it was a sign of frustration more than anything else. But it was dirty. And I would have given him a red card any day of the week.
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing it was a red card. I'm just saying the angle I saw on the television, I couldn't see any of that. I mean, I didn't see where the player started from. I didn't see where he came from. All I saw on the replay is they just showed when he hit his chest. Look, he hit his chest. So I mean, I it's obviously a card, and I don't dispute it was a red card. But yeah, no, the cards. So look, the Argentines brought on themselves. There was some dumb play here that resulted, like that one especially. But all three. And Pablo Mateo Carreras also got a yellow card. He got that in the first half, and then we had those two in the second half. The one by Pablo Matera that you're talking about, and the other was by Santiago Carreras. These are three of their top players. Top players. So it just goes to show you that you've got to focus on discipline every game. It's not something you take for granted. People get frustrated, but I mean, I don't get why the Pumas were frustrated. They knew they were going to lose this game.
Yeah.
Do they honestly think they're going to win in Nelspruit after the Springboks were embarrassed by last week? I mean, had they done that, the entire rugby world would have just been, it would have been like Japan in the UK in the 2015 World Cup beating the Springboks at Brighton, the game that I was at. I mean, that would be similar to that. They weren't going to win. So frustration, I guess, because you're on the pitch, you're working hard, and you're not getting a reward for it. Yeah.
Nothing works. Nothing's working out. Nothing's going right. That I think in their hearts of hearts they knew they're gonna lose, but they hoped they're gonna win. They were gonna win. There's a difference. Yeah. I mean, they came a long way this season. Like, give them the credit for that. They beat every other nation. They beat the All Blacks, the Australians, and South Africa for the first time ever. And there was an outside chance that they could win the championship. So I mean, it slipped away, and I think to a degree it's understandable but not excusable. That there's a difference.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But people keep saying they've come a long way. A lot of analysts are saying that, but I'm confused by that. This team was in the semifinals of the World Cup last year, were they not? I mean, it's, they played very well in the World Cup. The thing about Argentina is that they fly under the radar a lot, but they don't do well in the Rugby Championship on average. So people see that. But a lot of people aren't paying attention to their other tests. Look, the thing with the Pumas is that historically they rise, they fall, they rise, they fall. It's like watching an ocean wave. The waves come in and out, and they're rising again. And I think it goes back to the World Cup. They had a good performance in the World Cup last year. I saw them in person in France, and I thought that their rugby championship was impressive. As you said, they beat the All Blacks, they beat the Wallabies, and they beat the Springboks in one tournament. I don't know anyone that can claim that because only 4 teams in the URC.
Yeah, sure. But the point is that they don't have a domestic championship. These players are like South Africa, being drawn from all over the world. And under a new coach and everything else, and to be able to perform at this level. Michael Cheika had them at the World Cup. You're right. They did well, but it was a different scenario. They had more time. They spent more time together. But I think Conteponi, I think he did an exceptional job. And I think actually they're going to be doing a bit better in future even. They, to me, seem to have taken the next step almost, if I can call it that.
I would agree. I'm not going to disagree with that 100 at all. But the challenge for them is it's like a challenge we have for the Eagles, There's nothing. Well, the Eagles have a domestic competition now, but the Eagles, the problem for this, they don't get bloodied with international tests against great teams, except on occasion. But for the Argentinians, they don't have that domestic competition. I think it'd be really cool if Major League Rugby got a bit healthier and invited a couple Argentinian teams to be part of it. But that's going to be a heavy cost. Then there's also the travel. But then you come up for like 3 or 4 games, then you go down and have a week off. But it'd be really cool to see. I don't think anybody's even talked about this. A couple Argentinian teams playing in Major League Rugby here in the U.S. It would be fantastic for Major League Rugby here. Those Argentine players come up here, maybe some U.S. players going down there. And then I think it'll be good for them because they get game time. But then there's the other side of that too. If the level of rugby is not as good as it should be in Major League Rugby, then players will play down. They won't play to their top
Yeah.
skill set. So, I mean, there's a risk there, but it's something to consider. I mean, it's worthwhile. I mean, maybe if they don't do it with Argentina, they offer to Chile or maybe Brazil, who are also up and coming, but I think Chile is a better choice there, or Uruguay. Uruguay is a good choice. But it's tough for teams like that because Uruguay and Argentina, they play well. I mean, look at Chile. They got in the World Cup this last time,
Yeah.
and I thought they very well impressed in the World Cup. But if you don't play, it's tough. The Springboks get a dozen matches, the England gets a dozen matches, and so on every year, and they're playing in top flight leagues, and they got their players. I mean, the biggest problem we have for the Southern Hemisphere teams, excluding the Pumas, is that they just simply don't get enough rugby. Our biggest problem we have for the teams minus Southern Hemisphere is that they have to figure when their players can take a break. I mean, for South Africans, we've got URC, 18 games. We've got Currie Cup, 10 games. We've got a dozen test matches. Put those all together, and you've got broken players. You've got exhausted players. So you've got to do a lot of management there because there's a lot of rugby, whereas those guys don't have that, so they're fresh. But at the same time, they're not getting bloodied, not getting experience, and there's nothing like experience. I mean, you can be the smartest, freshest, brightest face on the scene, but having been in that situation, in that crucible of fire in a World Cup, or in a rugby championship, or in the Six Nations, when you've got to make, I mean, look at Jordan Hendrickson winning the Currie Cup, 59 meters. Oh my goodness. The dude walks on a pitch and puts it straight through the uprights. Now he cleared it by about 2 meters, but hey, 2 centimeters is all you need. Anyway, so that's what it takes. And, I think the Pumas need more of that. How they're going to do it, I don't know. Of course, some of their players play in URC and in the French Pro 14, but it's not quite the same. They're not around a bunch of their fellow teammates.
All right, so this past weekend was the second round of the URC, but the first round for the South African teams after that first round was cancelled unceremoniously, to my utter dismay, because I think it upset the Bulls a lot. I'm going to get blamed for a change because I'm being accused of being too bull-centric. Let's call it that. But you know that. Tell me what you thought. I thought the Lions had quite a good game. I mean, it's Ulster of all teams. It's not a bad team at all, and they actually sort of blew them away. That's my impression.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. I will have to say, in interest of full disclosure, I was working on 2 hours sleep and was pretty knackered when I called this game, and it didn't quite have the excitement and thrill that I was hoping for to keep me awake during the game. Caffeine wasn't doing the trick because I'm inured to caffeine. But look, I agree. The Lions, they had a good victory, and this is why I say the Lions will make the playoffs and have a winning record this year. They will have a win. They won't go 8-8. They'll go 10-6 or 11-5, but they're going to have a winning record in my view. I will mention a few players that stood out for me in this game. I thought that Eric Carnier was unbelievable in this game. He was all over the place. Rob McQuade is becoming the player that some of us hoped he would become. He was incredible in this game. Frankie Horn was pretty steady and impressive throughout the game. The one disappointment for me is that the find of the Currie Cup season was Renzo du Plessis, and I was really hoping to see him. They didn't bring him on until like 9 minutes left in the game, if I recall correctly, and I was a little disappointed. I hoped to see him sooner. He didn't get much of a chance to have any impact there, but I thought that the Lions did what they needed to do, and then some. It was a pretty good game. And you're right, Ulster is they're not just any pushovers. I will say one thing on Ulster, and for folks who know me, I'm a huge fan. Also hoping that somebody will find the criminals who stole all this kit. That's Werner Koch. I was not impressed by his debut for Ulster. I didn't think he had a very good game. He was kind of quiet and didn't seem to accomplish much out there. But Ulster, this is not a bad team, and they're going to compete for a top playoff position and seeding. And the Lions did well at home to beat them. So yeah, I'm impressed by that game, even though I had a hard time staying awake. Not the Lions' fault. That was my computer's fault. But the Lions game, was pretty good. I had a hard time. Now we had who went out? Was it Peter Botta went out for a head injury assessment there early in the game. And Franco Marais came in, a player I'm not familiar with. And I thought he did a fantastic job at hooker replacing. I thought he really did a good job. I had my fingers crossed. I'm like, oh, who's this guy? I don't know much about him because I don't see him in South Africa much. So I thought he did a really good job. And I thought that the Lions did what they had to do in this game. But I would like to see more of Renzo du Plessis going forward.
Oh, next game was at Loftus, and the Bulls certainly didn't look the part. I mean, they just didn't convince at all. They managed to pull it out of the fire towards the end, but they seem to be, I don't know, out of sorts a little bit. Something's wrong there, I think.
Well, a couple of things. The same with the Lions, less so with the Lions, but certainly for the Stormers and for the Bulls, all their bucks are gone. They're coming back. When they come back, we'll see different teams. Now, there might be some issues with teams not quite in sync because of this the players coming back or maybe able to pick up. I think that has something to do with it, but that's an excuse. That's not acceptable. They should have the depth to be able to play without their Springbok players. Yeah, the Bulls was not an impressive performance. They're fortunate to leave the win. I mean, they're playing Edinburgh. They're not a rollover team either. They've improved dramatically the past few seasons. So really good, but it was kind of weird. I mean, who am I rooting for here? Edinburgh or the Bulls? I mean, Pierre Schoeman and Duhan van der Merwe and Bowen Fenta. It's like the all South African all-star team playing in Scotland. So I was hoping it'd be an exciting game, but this was not the most boring, but it was up there for one of the most boring things I saw this weekend. It was not so great, but I will say this: two players stood out for me, and one more than the other, but both stood out very well. David Creel, I thought had a good game, but Cameron Hanekom was everywhere. This guy is a Tasmanian devil. He hits hard. He runs the speed. He has incredible speed for such a big guy. Imagine a Victor Matfield as an Olympic sprinter. That's what Cameron Hanekom looks like to me. Look, he's that bulk jersey's waiting for him. So Hanekom, I'm looking forward to that. And I thought that that Van der Merwe did a good job as a captain for the Bulls. I thought it was not bad. He did a pretty good job out there.
I like that description, Tasmanian devil, because it sort of describes him to a T. That's exactly what it is. That's a good point. You're right. Now, he impressed me a lot. I mean, apart from the yellow card, he's, like you said, he's got Springbok written all over him. The fact that he got injured in that in the final or semi-final, I can't remember, of the URC, sort of scuppered his Springbok chances for this championship. But definitely he's gonna be right up there. And that's going to be interesting to see. I said it before, what the Bulls are going to do at 7 and 8 with Elrich being a Springbok number 8. But as Bulls number 7, some of our followers have told me that the Bulls number 7 is not the same as the Springboks number 7, for example. So but to me, that's an interesting conundrum, a nice problem to have almost.
Well, it's a brilliant problem to have. It's what happens though is you wind up getting great players that don't get the chance to have an unbelievable number of test matches. I mean, so for instance, Kurtley Arnse is a bit older than most people realize, and the guy hasn't even gotten to 50 caps yet. But he is just like one of the best players on the planet, so he's not going to wind up with 150 caps, even though, I don't know if we can get to 100, but you don't realize that. So anyway, that's one of the problems when you have so much talent, you can only put 15 players on the pitch at a time. So unless you're playing a platoon system, which can be very disruptive, unlike the bomb squad approach where you just wholesale replaceable, but if you're playing a platoon approach, you get out of sync. I thought the Bulls game was boring. Yeah, so look, it's the attendance at these games was dismal. I understand there was a Springbok game going on. People, obviously, nobody in Nelspruit was at these games, but that's just Nelspruit. There's the rest of the country, 63 million people. There should be, more than a handful of people. It's like going to a coffee shop, walking into Starbucks. There's 40 people here. Hey, that's Loftus on Saturday. That was very sad. And same with Ellis Park. Hopefully that will change this weekend as the two teams swap and so Ulster and Edinburgh change where they're playing at. Short trip for both those teams after a long journey from Europe. But let's get some people in the stands out there, folks. Put some bums in the seats. These teams deserve it, and we need to keep it going. We've had some great crowd sizes for URC. I know the stadiums look empty, but when you look at the numbers of people attending them, it's better than virtually any other URC team because they all play in these dinky little high school stadiums that hold it. My high school held more seats than they have, 8,000 in some of these pitches they have, like Sandy Park and stuff like that. So, yeah, let's rock up at the stadium, guys, and make this real. So the Bulls game, oh, well, I'm just glad they got to win. Anyway.
Well, at least they got to win. That's what I say as well. That's better than nothing. Talk about the Sharks quickly before we talk about the Stormers. I can't wait. I'm rubbing my hands. But let's talk about the Sharks that snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
You cannot wait to talk about the Stormers to me. No, my gosh. Okay. The Sharks, I didn't get to watch the game, and I haven't watched it in replay. I did pop in on it occasionally because I had the stream running the same time I had my game running, which was the Stormers. I probably should have watched the Sharks. But the Sharks jumped out and were looking fantastic. They had world beaters, had a 27-7 lead, and then lost the game. It reminds me of the first season of the URC, those early games for the Stormers, who came out and had like a 35-0 lead and lost games. I don't know what happened there. It wasn't just one weekend; it happened weekend after week. But they won that title, so I'm not going to complain. But the Sharks just collapsed. Here's the problem. A lot of people, including like Planet Rugby analysts, have said, hey, this is a team that is going to be in the final, the Sharks. And I said, hold your horses. Let's not get too excited. The Sharks can win, and they have won recently. They won the Curry Cup. They won the Challenge Cup, but that's not like, winning the URC title or winning the Champions Cup. That's a different step. And so I'm not saying the Sharks aren't going to do well. I'm not saying they're not going to get to a final. What I'm saying is that I don't trust them. And this was a case in point. 27-7 collapse. I don't trust them. If I'm a Sharks fan, I'd have no fingernails. I'd be biting my fingernails down to the nubs every game because, but I'm in the same boat with the Stormers, and I know we're coming to that in a second. But that's, very disappointing. Did you actually get to watch the Sharks game? Because I didn't.
No, I didn't watch either of them, the Sharks or the Stormers, because I was away for the weekend.
Oh, you didn't watch the Stormers? Okay, well, the Stormers are incredible. They had a great weekend. They were really impressive. Great start to the URC
I didn't watch the weekend, but
okay.
I've got newspapers and internet, so you're not going to pull that one on me. I'm telling you now.
I thought we were done and dusted with the Stormers.
No. Let me hear what you've got to say about the Stormers. I'm all ears.
Gosh. Oh man, I'll tell you. It's just this is exactly what I was worried about. And we can't say that we need Springboks back because this team had a Springbok on it. It had some Springboks. So, oh man, this is what I worry about. I don't know. I need somebody give me Dobby's number. Dobby and I need to have a conversation. I need to find out what's going on with the Stormers. This is Damien Willemse came back from injury. He played. Suleiman Hartzenberg was out there. Ruan Nel and Dan Duplessis, I think they're a fantastic combination, but I didn't see much in this game from them that really, usually they're incredible. I thought the team selection was very good. Yuri Matia is definitely maturing and developing into one heck of a fly half. I thought he had a pretty darn good game overall, but the team just didn't get it done. It was underwhelming. It was typical of early season on the road URC games for the Stormers franchise. They must get past this each season. This is the fourth season now. Every season when they go to Wales, my goodness, you're going to lose. Don't lose in Wales, lose in Ireland, but they go to, oh my goodness, this is annoying. Last year they started out, they won 2 games. Then they went on the road and they lost 4 games in a row. It was just, and the first couple seasons, same sort of thing. So I don't know why they have such a hard time winning in Wales or Ireland. All the teams have a challenge from South Africa, but it's the worst performers, I think, in my mind, maybe because I follow them, as the Stormers. This was not a good game. Look, the Ospreys are not a particularly good team. And the Stormers they had a 13-3 lead. And they let it get away from them again. So just like the Sharks, they let the game get away from them. And this game I watched, and I was not happy. I stayed up to do this live color commentary and play-by-play, and I felt like I got cheated. I needed sleep at that stage, and I went to bed shortly after that. It was disappointing. Turgid comes to mind.
Yeah.
Turgid performance.
Well, I want to ask you this. All the teams looked a bit undercooked, except for I think the Lions looked pretty good. And I think maybe it's to do to a degree with the Currie Cup, the way the Currie Cup played out. The province specifically played only junior players. So these guys are a little bit rusty, if I can call it that. I think to a degree we saw the same with the Bulls. I don't think the Sharks got the same excuse. They used their players as well. I don't know why they fell over, whatever the word is, gave up. That's quite funny. But I think between the Bulls and the Stormers, it can be maybe attributed a little bit to the way that they warmed up for this. You can see they were a bit rusty and the likes, and I think they'll improve going forward.
No, I agree. But you can't afford to give away a game. You need points. And you don't want to start in the hole. And so they need to be better prepared for this.
Especially, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's a game you should win. If you're in Leinster and you lose, okay, I got it. Munster, you lose. Well, even Edinburgh, Glasgow these days, you lose. Okay, but I'm not accepting it. But I'm saying it's understandable. But losing in Bridgehead, seriously?
Sorry, because I don't want to rub this in, but Ospreys beat the Stormers last time in Cape Town. Sorry, but it's the truth.
I don't recall that.
Was it allegedly?
No, I did. You're gonna have to show me this. The evidence. Well, I don't recall that game. I must have. I don't know. I did have a head injury once, and maybe it was around that time.
I think the Stormers have a new bogey team. If you ask me.
Oh my goodness! Look, you got to play better than this. Oh, I do want to say this about that game. I think that this game didn't go well when we made one substitution. I'm just looking at my score sheet here, and not to, it's interesting because people attack me for when I comment about people, but I'm consistent about how I do this. Yuri Mati, I thought was fantastic and was brought out of the game, and they brought Jean-Luc Duplessis in, and he was terrible. Sorry, Jean-Luc, but that was a poor performance, and I think that contributed to what was going on. But it's not his reason. It's not his fault they lost. But I thought it was a substitution that made no sense, and it hurt the Stormers. This kid, Yuri Mati, is the real deal. And he's really going to be. I think Ethan Betzel could be the real deal too, but he needs to ease up on the yellow cards.
No, but he's not going to play anymore because the Cheetahs, they play the Western Force this weekend, believe it or not, and they're going to be playing the Emerging Irish, and that's it. That's sort of it for the Cheetahs for the rest of the year. It's such a pity.
It is. It really sucks. I mean, they should be. I mean, they're the ones who did the proof of concept along with the Southern Kings that this could work. And they actually were competitive in the playoffs in that last season. And then Saro unceremoniously dumps them. But let's not get started on Saro. I got plenty of bones to pick with them.
No. Well, except for them using your video in the Springboks.
Oh, yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, please promote me all the time. Well, it's about time after all the grief they put me through.
Yeah,
not me personally, but me as a Springbok fan.
Made us suffer. You're right, but at least we're on top of the wave now. We must stay, enjoy it while it lasts.
We not just enjoy it. We got to milk this. I want to mock All Black fans. That's what I want. We're not there yet. When we can start mocking and we can look down and laugh at the All Black fans, then we've reached the heights. Yeah. And look, I'm not a spiteful person, but let's be honest. All Black fans are the most annoying on the planet. Many of those people are just so rude, disrespectful, so arrogant, so cocky. I actually am joyful every time the All Blacks lose. It makes my weekend. I'm just saying, it makes my weekend. So I want to.
Brave man.
Oh, I know. I'm going to get flamed now. They're coming for me. No, look, New Zealanders, Kiwis are good people by and large, minus a few. But when it comes to their rugby, it's a religion. And they're just zealots. They really are.
Yeah.
But hey, I guess they could say we're zealots too for the Springboks.
I'd love to see the tours from 2026 going forward. What a difference it's going to make, because I think the All Blacks are definitely suffering without the South African teams in the Super Rugby, and they're starting to pay the price for it now.
Oh, absolutely. You can see it. Absolutely. And it was the dumbest decision ever. It hurt New Zealand and Australia could not afford to be hurt at that stage. It just shows how weak their structures were and how few quality players were coming through. It really, the change with South Africa leaving Super Rugby and Argentina leaving is really mostly affected the Wallabies, but it's also affected the All Blacks. You can see it now, and you'll see it in the future. It was a dumb decision, not smart at all. I just don't get why. Well, I understand why they did, but not a smart move. And I think that, as I said, I was a huge advocate for it at the time it happened. That this was the only beef I had with going to the URC is that the Cheetahs were dropped. Mm-hmm. Yeah, other than that, I thought it was. I mean, that was the only problem. The Cheetahs should have still been in it. So anyway, it's I hate the phrase, it's trite, but it is what it is. Nothing we can do about changing it, but that is a reality. We got to find some way to get the Cheetahs involved in some competitions here. I don't know what Sara is doing. I see they they played the Western Force last year as well, if I'm not mistaken. But we've got to get them playing and a chance to get the turnstiles going, keep the fan interest, and keep players bloodied and experienced. Otherwise, we're going to have another Griffins team on our hand at some point with the Cheetahs.
Well, Chris, going forward, it's going to be a bit of an adjustment to talk about URC, like we're excited about it. it's going to take a while.
No, not maybe for you, but I love URC. I do get excited about it. And for those who don't know, I focus on the South African squads. So as long as they're not playing at the same time, I do play-by-play and color commentary of every URC game for South African sides, regardless of the time, regardless of the day. As long as I'm not doing consulting or traveling, I do the games. So I get excited about it. But the games I most get excited about are the Stormers and the Bulls games. I don't get as excited about the Sharks and Lions. I cover them. But the Lions sucked, now they don't suck anymore. Now they're a good team. So maybe I'll get excited. I mean, there are some incredible players there. I mean, Kuhnhorn has really come a long way. I'm just pulling my score sheet again. Kuhnhorn, Rob McQuaney, I was really excited about that. Eric Cronje was great. Cade Volhuter, I thought he was okay with the Province side, and he's over with the Lions now. But Sanini Nohamba, fantastic, great stuff there. Frankie Horn. Darian Landsberg, always great to see him play well. So look, I get excited about and then of course Renzo Duplessis. I really want to see that guy out there. But I mean, so I'm looking forward to URC.
No, what I mean is it takes a while for the URC to hit its stride. because it's such a long competition.
It's an 18 game season, and it's interrupted by the Challenge Cup, and I hate that. Why can't those competitions be after it's over? You know, I don't understand the reasoning how that came about. It's probably a scheduling thing at some point, but it really disrupts the flow, in my view, of what's going on. So yeah, no, you're right. It's a long season, and really honestly until January, people don't start getting excited when you start seeing how it's shaping up and how it's going. So anyway, but that's what we have now. Yeah. Our next test matches aren't till November in England and Wales and Scotland. So going forward for the Bucks, Wales should be a win. Scotland should be a win, but you can't take them for granted. And England should be a win, but we better play and not just show up.
I think England's got problems, you know, with Felix Jones leaving and, you know, all the coaches leaving, and things are not everything as it seems in England. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
But I mean, the Bucks right now are 8 from 10, if I'm not mistaken, for test matches this year.
Yeah.
And if they sweep that'll make them 11 for 13. That'd be an incredible season. But a season that there's 2 games that they lost were each by 1 point. But to be fair, quarterfinal, semifinal, and Webb Ellis Trophy by a point in each case. So you know,
you're right. But fair for one, good for the goose, good for the gander. Yeah,
exactly. Right. And when we don't dominate, that's the risk we run. We come out on the wrong side of that 1 point game. Anyway, as always, it's been a pleasure, MV.
Thanks, appreciate it. Thanks for the time, Chris. Speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
This is the Rugby Ascendant Podcast with Envia Velman and Chris Wyatt.